Hello and welcome to the August 18th Planning Commission meeting. I will call this meeting to order. And if I could have everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, I do have a flag so that way you can direct your vision this way. If I could have everyone put right hands over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to roll call. If I could have Stephanie start that.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Guerrero. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopez.
I'm here.
Chair Sanchez.
Present.
Let's see. Commissioner Wolbert.
Here.
Commissioner Quill is excused. Commissioners Liang and Jones are soon to arrive but are not present yet. Oh, I'm sorry. And Commissioner Chang.
Present.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Perfect. Thank you, Stephanie. So I'm going to go over a few ground rules since we do have some of the applicants present here. First, we were going to hear the report from staff. From there, I will open public hearing and we will hear public comments. From there, the applicant will be allowed to respond. After the applicant has responded, we will go in order from ward to ward and hear what the commissioners have to say on the topic. We will, once all the commissioners have gone, we will go one round more at that. If you could just raise your hands if you have a rebuttal or anything to add. The applicant at any point can respond. A staff can respond to the commissioner as they're speaking. From there, we will close public comments and we will have a roll call vote. If anyone at any point needs a break, please just raise your hand. Hopefully with the two other commissioners joining us soon, we will maintain quorum. If you need to recluse yourself from any of the items, if you could do that, if you could just raise your hand now, that way Albert can take care of that. I see no hands, so I think everyone is fine to be in every one of the discussions. And then if you could mute yourself if someone else is speaking, that way we can have the audio done well at that so everyone can hear the tape record. That's it for ground rules or anything like that. Staff and Albert and everything, our lawyer here, he will make additional comments if anything needs to be fixed. Going on to the consent agenda. If we could have an update from staff.
Yes, good evening, commissioners. On the consent calendar this evening, we have two items. Item number one is the minutes for our last meeting, which was on July the 14th. They are complete as submitted. And item number two is real property alley vacation 15.30-434. It's for an alley that's to the east of Scenic Drive and approximately 200 feet south of Inland Center Drive. Our recommendation is for approval of both of those, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. So at this point, I will open it to public hearings. So if the commissioners have any comments on this consent agenda. If not, I will close public hearing and I will entertain a motion for it.
I'll make a motion to approve.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Could I interject? I didn't catch that. I had a comment to make and I didn't make it. Is it too late?
Oh, yes, of course, Commissioner.
Okay.
So we'll backtrack just a moment and go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay. I guess my question was that who owns the new area, the new land that's being turned over?
It would be the property, the developer that's doing the project there on the corner. You may recall earlier in the year there was an application for a gas station and car wash there at that location. It involved several pieces of property. We have the alley that bisected. If you it's identified on the second page of the staff report, the kind of highlighted bit. It was previously owned by the city as streets, sidewalks, and alleys and right of ways. It's no longer needed, so it's being absorbed by that development.
So this piece of exchange would increase the applicant's value of his land?
That is correct.
And do we just turn that over to him, or do we have some way of recovering any costs on that?
Alex, do you mind?
Okay, so what, I'm sorry, okay, the question is, I'm sorry.
Oh, so we turn this land over to the applicant, and that will increase the value of his existing property for development. Is there any payment to the city for this, for increasing his the value of his property? In other words,
The existing alley that we have at this point of time, in both sides of the alley, the owner are, the owner of the same. And in that alley at the time, we have some kind of, it was an easement that we have for the water department with some communications, and for Edison, they were having poles. It feeds it's like a transmission station at the end of at the corner of the property. All of these utilities have been relocated, and now there is nothing on, but we do not get any payments for it. It's for the benefit of the project. That's what generates tax for the city.
all right, will this revise the land use? I mean, what's going to go in there now?
It's going to be a gas station and car wash and a convenience store.
Okay. And this is zoned for that?
It's already been approved.
Okay.
It was approved under a previous conditional use permit.
So basically, just to chime in, so this project had came in front of the planning commission before for approval and was approved. And one of the conditional approval was for the applicants or the developer to do whatever necessary to get all the easements out of that alley so it can be vacated, and it will be part of his project. Correct, Oliver?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that makes sense. So this is basically dead land that we're turning over for better use then.
That is
Yes,
correct.
that's correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilbert. At this point, I'd actually like to make known Commissioner Liang is present with us. And so do we have any further public comments on this item? If not, then I will close public hearing for this. And we did entertain a motion already. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. If I could have a roll call, Stephanie?
Thank you. Commissioner Guerrero,
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez,
Aye.
Chair Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Liang.
First of all, I'd like to apologize. I just got off work, and so are we on item number 2? Let's see.
It's consent calendar.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang.
Yes.
Thank you. Consent calendar passes.
Perfect, thank you. Moving on to public hearing items. Planning Commission will first hear a report from staff, and then the public hearing will be opened. The applicant will have an opportunity to speak. Next, members of the public will be allowed to speak. After all have spoken, the applicant will be allowed to respond. The public hearing will then be closed, and the Planning Commission will begin deliberations and make a decision. All actions except general plan amendments and amendments to the Municipal Development Code are final actions unless an appeal is filed and a fee paid within 15 days to the Community Development Department. If you challenge the resultant action of the Planning Commission in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described in this agenda, or in written correspondence delivered to the Community Development Department at or prior to the public hearing. Moving on to item number 3. If we could have a staff report, please.
Yes, Commissioners. Item number 3 is for conditional use permit 20-06 and variance 20-02. It's for the property located on the northeast corner of East Highland Avenue and North Valencia Avenue. At this point, we would like to request that this item be continued to the next meeting of September the 8th, I believe. So there were some conditions that we're looking to resolve with the applicant, some conditions that were in the resolution. We weren't able to resolve that prior to the meeting. And so the applicant has requested that we continue to give some more time to work those details out. So with that, I would like to recommend that we open the hearing. I believe that we have a comment or two that we could engage. And then again, we're requesting the item be continued to September the 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. So at this point, I will open public hearing for this item. And so,
Thank you. Let me go ahead and get public comment up. Just one moment. So this particular public comment, the same statement comes from 4 individuals: Craig Scott, Patricia Kilmer, David Kilmer, and Patricia Lay. To the Commission, please accept this email as my opposition to conditional use permit 2006 and variance 2002. This proposed development will cause severe health and safety issues to the residents of San Bernardino and all residents that are close to this development. This development backs up to a densely packed residential area that includes several multifamily residences and single-family homes that are already negatively impacted by traffic volumes too high for a residential area. This development will increase traffic and generate noise and air pollution that are not safe and unhealthy for nearby residents. This development will bring increased traffic to a very dangerous intersection, which will have a very negative impact on nearby residential areas and also for every person that ever goes through this intersection. This intersection requires a complete overview on how to make it safer before any development is considered. The intersection does not need increased traffic and in fact cannot handle any increased traffic. The development will also unfairly compete with several nearby businesses that have been in business for many, many years. Please deny this conditional use permit 2006 and variance 2002.
all right.
That's the
Thank
end of
you.
public comment.
Perfect. Thank you, Stephanie. Do any of the commissioners, since this is going to be continued on to the next meeting, I guess we'll save our comments for the next time around. But if anyone wishes to speak at this point.
I have a couple of things.
Yes, Commissioner Wilbur.
Because it's going to come up the next time, give a chance to somebody to resolve it maybe. Reducing the landscape from 10 feet to 3 feet. What's the comments on that?
From the public, or I don't believe that there's any opposition to the reduction of the setback. Or were you asking the question of staff?
I'm actually asking the question because
With all due respect, I would like to reserve our comments. Also, the applicant has not joined us this evening, so they might be more appropriately able to answer their request for the variance, if that would be okay with the commission.
that's fair enough. That's good.
Thank you.
All right. Since the applicant isn't with us and everything, and most questions will be answered in the following meeting, I think we can close public comment at this point. And I will entertain a motion to continue this item for the next meeting.
I'll make the motion to continue.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. If we could have a vote roll call, Stephanie?
Commissioner Guerrero,
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez,
Aye.
Chair Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Liang,
Yes, with a comment pursuant to my commissioner fellow made earlier, the 3 foot, I'm not certain if the 3 foot would allow any landscaping to survive. I just like to kind of add that on the my comment for yes. I'm not sure if any 3 foot, I'm not sure if this adequate in terms of irrigation purposes and maintenance of landscaping and trees for survival.
If I may quickly interject on that item, there actually is going to be a total of 14 feet of landscaping along the frontage. It's a technicality because there's going to be some right-of-way dedication that's going to be involved. Right-of-way dedication, but no physical improvements to widening the street, if that makes sense.
So part of the improvements would include as part of the landscaping. Is that what you're saying? Ultimately, the 3 foot will be added to the additional right of way that would provide substantial landscape setback.
That's correct.
Okay, that's fine. We'll have to.
Yeah, and we do have some exhibits as part of our PowerPoint to demonstrate that. And we also included that in the staff report, an exhibit that shows how the lines are moving and where the landscaping is.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Commissioner Wilbert,
Yes.
and Commissioner Chang.
Yes.
The item is continued.
Thank you, commissioners.
All right. Thank you, Oliver. All right, so moving on to item number 4. If we could have the staff report, please.
Thank you, Stephanie. Item number 4 is development permit type D 19-05. This is a request to do a conversion of an existing building that contains approximately 7,974 square feet. They're going to be doing interior tenant improvements to the building in order to establish and operate a daycare facility. The project site is located at 1557 West Baseline Street within the Commercial General CG1 zone. Next slide, please. The operation that will be there will be a daycare facility. It is a permitted use and meets all the development standards within the Commercial General Zone and uses. It will provide educational and recreational programs specific to an age group. It would also provide childcare services between the ages of 24 months to approximately 5 years old. All the children will be separated by age group and will be assigned by number of children within each age group per the state of California social service rules and regulations. They intend to operate Monday through Sunday from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. in order to accommodate working parents as well. The site will be accessed through West Baseline Street for parents and staff. They have a parking lot on the east side of the building. that would provide sufficient parking for all staff members. This is the locational map. It's located again within the commercial general zone, southeast corner of Ramona Avenue and West Baseline Street, and it is surrounded by an existing residential neighborhood. Next slide, please. This is the existing site. This was an existing mortuary facility. It's been vacant for quite a while. And so their intent is to go in and renovate the interior and redo a lot of the landscaping and some of the exterior in order to accommodate a playground area and the parking area for all staff members and accessible through West Baseline. This is the site plan. As you can see, they're going to be doing all the landscaping. Currently, right now, there isn't any, so they're going to be doing a lot of the landscaping along West Baseline, getting that refurbished, putting in new irrigation system, and also on Ramona, they're going to be providing all that landscaping as well. And they're going to be providing separation for the playground area and any access on Ramona for the refuse enclosure. This is the existing floor plan where they're going to be having the various classrooms in which they're going to be separating the children by the age group that they have. So before you, the Planning Commission, our recommendation is that the Planning Commission adopt resolution number 2020-036, finding the categorical exemption and approving development permit type D 1905 based on the findings of fact and subject to the recommended conditions of approval. The applicant is here, so if you have any more questions regarding the proposal, they may be able to answer any questions as well as myself.
Perfect. Thank you, Elizabeth. Stephanie, do we have, at this point, we'll open public hearing for this item. Do we have any public comments?
We do. We have a recording that I can get queued up for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, good evening. How are you doing? This is Jose from JMPL Corporation. Jose Murguia from JMPL Corporation regarding the permit type D1905, D19-05. I'm totally in favor of the daycare facility in the neighborhood. And actually, we need to get some more support from the City Commission regarding, new developments in the area. And you need to have more new buildings in the area and the neighborhood. My callback number 562-244-6789. Again, Jose from JMPL Corporation.
And that was our only public comment for that item.
Perfect. Thank you, Stephanie. If we could speak to the applicant, if they wanted to make any comments in regards to the public comment or the report.
Manuk, at this time, if you want to speak.
Yeah, this is Manuk, and Michael James is actually on, and we're excited about this project. We want to get this thing rolling as quickly as we possibly can, and if we can make it happen, that'll be the greatest thing. And to also bring in a beautiful building and children's daycare to the community that there's not any in the area or in the city or in the county right now. So it would be a great business opportunity for the county, for the city, and also for the children to come and have a great time with us.
Thank you. All right, so I will go down the list of the commissioners if you have any comments, starting with Commissioner Guerrero.
No, it's nice to see some improvements to a vacant building that has been vacant for quite some time. So that's very good. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Commissioner Lopez, any comments?
I only have one question, I guess, for the applicant, and that is because it's a daycare center, it's much needed in that neighborhood. And as Commissioner Guerrero said, that mortuary has been empty and deteriorating for some time. So I welcome a project of this nature. Is the daycare public funded, private funded? Is it going to meet the residents, the working parents, in terms of what the cost is?
Correct. The project itself for the daycare is mixed public and private funded, and whatever the public funds are that were given, it is equal to what the private parents would pay for. So there is no additional cost for private parents to bring in their kids that's going to exceed what the public funds cover per child. So it is a mixed public and private funded facility. And it meets with all the state and the local regulations of the child daycare centers.
Thank you. Another question. What is the capacity of your building there? How many children are you anticipating taking care of?
Sure. Given the size of the building and the facility number of rooms that we have, our license is going to be applied for 125 children.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lopez. Commissioner Liang, any comments?
Thank you. No comment.
Perfect. Commissioner Wolbert.
Again?
No, Commissioner Wolbert.
Oh.
Do you have any comments on this item? Oh, you have to unmute yourself. Commissioner Wolbert, do you have any comments on this item?
There we go.
Thank you, Phil.
I did it. Hey, about that. I'd like to bring up the site plan again. Number one on my list is that it's going to be a stigma, I think, that that has been a mortuary for quite some time. Do you have any doubts about the stigma of being a mortuary and now a daycare center?
The answer to that is no, I don't think so, because the way that we're doing the renovation inside and changing some of the, well, taking all the sidings out and making it really look really nice. I don't think it would make any difference because it's going to be completely looking different than what it is. Different colors, paints, landscaping, playground. I mean, it's completely changing the look of the building and what it was before and what it is now. I don't think it will be a problem.
I just wanted to bring that up because it seems like it could be. On the site plan, on the side of Ramona, at the playground area, what kind of protection do you have on the Ramona side at the playground area?
On the Ramona side, we already have the fence that exists right now. It's a 6-foot fence that's completely covered throughout the whole side of Ramona. Plus, on top of that, where the building starts, the side of the building, towards the back of the playground area, there's going to be a separate covered area where there will be a second fence we will put on, where the kids will be protected from any cars parking in the parking lot or any additional. For example, we have to give access to the trash area for the back of the lot, and for the waste management to come and pick up the trash. So we have to cover that. We have to put a fence around where the back of the building is and around the playground area. That's going to cover everything. So there's additional protection.
What kind of a fence are we talking about?
It will be the same size fence, about 6 feet tall, and surrounding the whole playground area.
Okay. It would be a wrought iron fence, correct, Manu?
Yes. Absolutely.
But things could be passed through that fence to the kids.
Well, there's two, that's the second. There's a wrought iron fence right now that's 6 feet tall, and if we put the second wrought iron fence in the property within, let's say, well, I don't know how many feet that is, but let's say behind the building surrounding the back playground area, I don't think things would be passed or could be passed to the kids, because people won't have access to the property.
About 20 feet away.
Yeah.
From the second fence.
My partner saying it's about 20 feet away from the first fence to the second fence. So it's quite a distance for things to be passed to the kids.
You know, the site plan doesn't show that. It looks like the playground is literally at the landscape area at Ramona.
Yeah, my apologies on that. I didn't realize that I hadn't updated the site plan to reflect the proposal for the applicant. But we had already conditioned that for refuse and for any kind of fire access to separate the playground area from the property line. So that way, if the vehicles do happen to come during the time that the kids are outside, which we're working with, they're going to be having children from 24 months to 5-year-olds. So more than likely it might be just the older children that are 5 that are going to be out there. But that was one of the reasons, was so that there is proper security in case there is any kind of vehicles that are coming to pick up the trash or to come to the site, and there's not going to be any cause for injury for children. So that will be reflected, and that's my apologies on that.
So what I'm getting to, there's really no vehicle obstructions from a vehicle being out of control and going into the play yard.
No, absolutely not.
There isn't any.
No.
I think some of the commissioners that were around when I made my last comments on a child care center. I've got a great deal of background in this. I really, really believe that there should be a 6-foot block wall at the playground. It should be not just a superficial wall, but I think it should be similar to a structural wall with rebar and filled concrete cells to keep a vehicle from going through. You're at an intersection, even though it's back from the intersection. Intersections have tendencies to have more accidents than others. But I won't go into it. I can. Some people, commissioners may remember some of the things I made in the past. And I feel very strong about this. And I think it's something that we need to really consider. I can go into the details why I'm so adamant about this.
The playground is about 150 feet away, if not further than from the main street.
Got it. Hold on 1 second. Yeah.
I didn't say again.
Yeah. No. Okay. My partner's on the line, but somehow his microphone's muted. He cannot be talking, so I have him on the speakerphone on my phone. He's saying that the playground area is about 150 feet away from the main street or from the side street. Now, Ramona, as far as the intersection is concerned, the property is about 1.3 acres, and the building itself is about 8,000 square feet. Let's say rounded up. So the backside, the complete backside of the building will be one of the 4 sides of the playground, and then the other 3 sides will be fenced in. So to put a block wall for that area, it's just, I think it's just overage. It doesn't make any sense. But because we're putting a 6-foot wrought iron fence, second fence to cover that area. I mean, I've seen I do own and operate another daycare. I've been at other daycares that I've had interest in inquiring. None of the locations had a block wall covering or surrounding the playground area. They have a fence, especially being such a huge property. There is no trap nor car that's going to pass through the first wrought iron fence and through the second wrought iron fence to get into a playground area. It's just that, I mean, the chances of it happening is not even 1%.
Well, the wrought iron fence is not going to stop a car. End of story. And I'm just talking about on the Ramona side, because
Ramona is a residential area, and it's a very narrow street or in and of its own.
still, I mean, you get speeders, you get everything else. I'm talking from an experience of mine. I'll tell you real quick. I've designed and built childcare centers. I'm on or was on the board of directors for the Sierra Light Foundation. The foundation was established for this very reason. A very large Cadillac went through a playground center and killed 2 kids. So the foundation was started with that. And our mission was to identify these kind of problems to keep them from happening. We had another child care center that was to us, I'm trying to think, that's 17th Street maybe. The same thing I brought up. I really feel that for child safety on the Ramona side, I don't mean the other sides, I think it needs to have a better barrier, because you never know. I mean, come on. And it's something I'm quite adamant about. But
if I may, Commissioner, you are correct. I recall the other project where we added that condition. If you are inclined to support the project, and after the public hearing portion of it, when the other commissioners have a chance to speak, if you'd like to make the motion, adding that condition for a reinforced wall from the back of the building to the property line, that's,
How about, hi, this is Efra Coronado. I'm the person who designed the property, but how about cement bollards 6 feet tall filled in with concrete at 8-foot spans, which is less than the width of a vehicle?
Manu, tell them that we can put studs if that's if.
This is Efra Coronado. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So what I'm saying is I designed that project, but what I was saying was if we installed 6-inch bollards, 6 feet tall, at 8-foot intervals to brace the fence, at 8 feet it's less than the width of a car. So I think with cement filled bollards, which are typically used to protect buildings, to protect equipment from oncoming cars, I think that would provide more than sufficient barrier to stop a car. Buried deep enough, those will definitely stop a car more than it would a tree. So that would be number one. Number two, I think what Manuk is trying to get at is that there's one fence at the property line of Ramona, which we could do the barriers on, and then we could alternate the barriers onto the other side on the second fence, which runs parallel to Ramona as well, but 20 feet away from the first fence, and make those alternating in alternating patterns, so that even if the car does get some magical way through the first one, he still has to cross the second one, and they're at an alternating pattern. I think that I think I understand Commissioner Wilpert's concern, but I think at 8 feet, the width of a typical car is 10. So it would be really hard to get a car through there at 8 feet, especially with a second fence with staggered supports.
I understand what you're saying. My F-250 will go through an 8-foot opening. I tried it. But the staggering of the bollards, that would make it basically a 4-foot opening, correct?
Correct.
Now, I'd like to see an engineered part. In other words, you just don't sink them in the ground 1 foot and walk away. They have to be structurally engineered, or something, or a additional engineering on that to show the impactability.
Yeah, we could definitely engineer those bollards. I mean, that's what we do typically. We engineer, many projects. So engineering a bollard to resist a force would be definitely something that we could definitely add to the project. But I think the cost of it would be cost less to do the bollards than to do a long fence, that solid filled CMU block fence. And I think just for the project's sake, in terms of what it's providing to the community at this point would be detrimental to the cost for the applicant at this point. But I think at the same time, I understand that cost should not outweigh the safety of the children. But I think at 4 feet intervals staggered, I think it and engineered, I think it would suffice. And I'm pretty sure we could engineer it to resist the impact.
I agree with that. As long as we've got a, I don't know how we do this, Oliver, do an engineering report and have it verified as to the depth and you know, everything involved in them.
We could probably add that as a condition, and typically as part of their building and safety submittal, that's something that can be submitted as part of that request.
I'm sorry if I forgot the name of the architect or engineer on this, or maybe Commissioner Chang could maybe chime in here. Is there?
Yes. So you can actually
for the footing depth of a bollard kind of a thing.
Right. So actually, hi, this is Commissioner Chang. To the architect, and I'm sure you're aware of the ASCE 7-16 vehicle impact load. So you just design the bollards in meeting that criteria for ASCE 7-16 vehicle impact load. That should suffice. Would that work?
Yes, definitely. We use those all the time in buildings where there's equipment, where there's houses, you know, in particular where there's parking next to living quarters.
Right.
Okay, so we don't have to re-engineer or reinvent the engineering. There is a product out there that's pre-engineered, and then if we can put that with the conditional use permit, I'd go along with it.
Yes.
Commissioner Chang, would you be kind enough to email us that reference? It's been a while since I took the state board.
Absolutely. Yes,
Thank
I can
you.
put that. Yes, you're welcome.
All right. Any additional comments, Commissioner Wilbert?
There's that great big sign out front that used to be the mortuary sign. You're going to take that down?
Actually, we're going to try to we're going to try to repurpose that and put a nice children's daycare sign on it. Noah's Ark Children's Daycare.
Okay. If I may remind the commissioners, we have recently adopted a sign ordinance, and so when that comes to us at the staff level, we will review that to ensure that it complies with those regulations.
Terrific. Okay. I think that's it. You've otherwise, I think you've got a very good project for the area. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Chang, do you have any comments on this item?
No further comments after Commissioner Wilbert. It's just that due to the concern of the impact that may harm the children physically, we will provide, I'm just advising the architect and the owner to agree, I'd agree with Mr. Wilbert's comment that the owner and the architect to provide protective measures on the design for impact, against impact on children. That's it. Yeah.
Perfect. Much like my fellow commissioners have mentioned, I actually really like this project. I think I actually found it a little bit humorous. I went from a mortuary to a daycare, definitely the opposite end of a life, but in a positive way. So I think this is a great use of this land. I was looking at the conditional conditions of approval. Number 8 was if there's a security camera, will you have security cameras on the premises for just cautionary things like that in case if there's any incident?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
a good comment.
Cameras will be inside of the building and also outside of the building, covering the premises, pretty much every angle and every inch of the property for safety reasons and for children's safety reasons.
Perfect.
That will be good.
Perfect. Just because it said if in the conditions of approval, so I was like, oh, are you guys going to do? That'd be a good thing, especially since there's such little ones and you are closer to major, streets. Again, like Commissioner Wilbert, I had mentioned there's also be conditional number 10, which said a wall or a fence. And as the drawing showed and everything, I thought the playground was going all the way to the south end of the property. So I was going to have additional comments, but as it was clarified, I understand with the bollards, I think that'll be a great idea. Extra protection for the kids against vehicles kind of getting onto the property. The south side, I do see that it is a vacant land. Thank you for putting up a wrought iron fence, because, you know, we don't want a bad image or something, you know, going on back there, and the kids having to see any of it. And then it says on conditions of approval number 32, it says future about repairs on the streets and such. Oliver, could you explain that to me?
Normally what we do is, as you know, with all of our discretionary applications, our CUPs and development permits, Public Works does use this as an opportunity to evaluate the sidewalks and streets to see where they need to be repaired. There are some cases with the street where they, you know, where they have to resurface, and there's other areas where they just had to grind in some areas and patch kind of thing. Likewise with curb and gutter, replace any broken or any missing pieces of those areas. And so what it does is it allows the engineers to work together to resolve what ultimately needs to be improved or replaced. So that's that. You'll see that in all of our projects, that standard language.
Perfect. All right. Because I usually see those and it just says we are going to be rehabilitating this or that or anything. And I just saw future and I was like, does that mean it's going to not happen immediately, or it's just going to be under evaluation?
Well, usually that's determined by the time that the building permits are issued, and those improvements have to be completed prior to the certificate of occupancy.
Wonderful. Okay. Just wanted to verify that. You mentioned about it being approved and everything, the daycare in terms of like schooling and school board, landscaping, everything looks great. I have no further comments. I completely support this project. So I'll go once more around with the commissioners. If you just want to raise your hand, if you have additional comments. Oh, yes, Commissioner Lopez.
Unmuted.
If you want to unmute yourself, Commissioner Lopez.
Am I unmuted now? All right, thank you. I just want to thank the applicant for bringing this project, especially in that particular community, because portable childcare is needed. There are a lot of low income and working class families that live there. But I also want to remind or let the applicant know that his location is also in a very dynamic intersection, Medical Center and Baseline. There are 3 public schools within walking distance. Is the Medical Center. Right across from this development is a whole large retail with different markets and shops and so forth. And I'm hoping and I'm encouraging, and this is something that's not in the required conditions, if the applicant will know, I'm hoping and encouraging that they will get to know the community, that they will, I'm always looking for projects that contribute, enhance, or foster whatever sense of community there is already there. And if they can contribute to that, they will be viewed as an asset, and I'm hopeful that that will happen. So, welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you.
If there's no further comments, then I will close public hearing for this item, and I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve this project with the additions that were made in reference to the wall for the safety of the children.
I'll second.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Stephanie, if you could have a vote roll call.
Commissioner Guerrero?
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez?
Aye.
Chair Sanchez?
Yes.
Commissioner Liang?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolbert?
Yes.
And Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
The item passes.
Congratulations and welcome to the city.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Moving on to item number 5. If we could have a staff report on that, please.
Yes, commissioners. Item number 5 is development permit type P 1802. It's for the property that's located on the south side of South Inland Center Drive. It's approximately 900 feet west of the 215 freeway. It's in the industrial light zone. It contains approximately 5.25 acres, and the proposal is to construct an industrial warehouse that contains approximately 102,000 square feet. This is a rendering of the building as seen from Inland Center Drive. This is the site plan for the project. I will be coming back to this slide later on so I can describe some of the features that have been added to this to alleviate its adjacent location to some of the residential areas. The proposal is consistent with the policies of the general plan, and it complies with the standards of the development code. For the environmental review under the Environmental Quality Act, a mitigated negative declaration was prepared and circulated for public review. A mitigation monitoring and reporting program has been prepared and included in the conditions of approval and in the resolution that's before you to ensure that any impacts would be minimized or eliminated. During the public review period, we did receive a comment letter. I believe the speaker that will be making their comment later, it was from their firm that submitted those comments. I will say that we did respond to those comments in our final negative declaration, so they've been incorporated into the document and the mitigation monitoring program. This is a location map. Like I said, it's just on the south side of South Inland Center Drive, adjacent to the freeway there. You may recall maybe about 3 years ago, for some of you commissioners that were on the commission, just to the upper right of where the project site is, there is currently an industrial building that was constructed and was previously approved. It was all it's the same ownership. This is what they're calling phase 2 of their project. As you can see, it's industrially zoned. To the lower left of the site, we have a mobile home park, and then we have a single family residential neighborhood that abuts it to the lower right for reference purposes. And again, this is an aerial of the map where you can see the surrounding uses. This is looking towards the site. If you look, the building on the left is the one that was previously approved by the same prop ownership. And so the building style and design will be similar to what you see there on the left-hand side. And the subject site is directly ahead. This is going up Inland Center Drive with the project site on the left-hand side. This is looking directly at the property, and to the right you can see the existing mobile home park, and in the background there you can see the backyards of the single-family residential neighborhood. This is going further along Inland Center Drive. And this is on Inland Center Drive. This is going towards the freeway where you'll see the project site on your right-hand side. If we can go back to that site plan, Stephanie, please. Slide number 3, I believe. If I may, I've got some notes here that I'd like to point out just for references. I'll start with the left-hand side of the slide. There is an 11-foot landscape setback that's there. To the left is the existing mobile home park. There will be an 8-foot high solid block wall, and so on the property line, and then there will be an 11-foot buffer there along that property line. Along the bottom, the same thing. There's also an 11-foot buffer there. There's also an 80-foot building setback from the rear property line to the back of the building. We'll also note that the parking stalls that you see along the back or the bottom part of the building and the left-hand side, that is for employee parking only. That was done deliberately to keep the trucks from driving adjacent to the mobile home park to the left and the single-family neighborhood to the right. if you look towards the top of the slide, there is a 20-foot landscape buffer along Inland Center Drive. On the back part of the landscaping, away from behind the landscape planter, there will also be an 8-foot high block wall so that it screens the dock doors. Again, you'll notice that the number of dock doors for the building, they are limited. There's 11 dock doors. If you'll see kind of the lower part of that U shape there in the middle of the building, where you see the polka dots, those are where the dock doors are. And again, those are approximately 165 feet from the street. And again, so they can you minimize the impacts of not just the aesthetics, but also the keep them away from the street. I just wanted to point that out as a design feature. We've been working on this project for a couple of years now, fleshing out the kind of some of the design details. I'm going through the environmental review and documentation of that. We have reached a point where staff is supportive of this project. We have circulated both the environmental document for public review twice, and we've also sent notices at least 3 times to the surrounding residents. You might recall this has been on the agenda a few times. We're requesting a continuance. Each of those times it was advertised in the newspaper, and we sent out mailers. That was also done in this particular case for tonight's meeting. With that, I'm going to our final slide. Our recommendation is that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution approving the project based on the findings of fact and subject to the recommended conditions of approval, and also adopt the mitigated negative declaration that has been prepared for the project. I'd be glad to answer any questions. I believe Stephanie mentioned that we do have a recorded message left for us on this item. We do have the representative, Cameron, is from the firm that prepared the environmental document. We also have Bridget, who is the architect that designed the project and the building. And I'd be glad to answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. So at this point, I'm actually going to open it to public hearing. And if the applicant has any comments, first we'll hear the public comment, and then you can respond from there.
Thank you, Chair.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Davis, REBECCA-DAVIS, and I'm calling regarding agenda item 5 for tonight's hearing. I represent Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility, including their members that live and work in and around San Bernardino. As we did back in December, we request that the city withdraw the mitigated negative declaration and instead prepare an EIR for the project, because there is substantial evidence that the project will have significant unmitigated environmental impact. I want to highlight 2 of the issues raised in our written comments. First, the MND's analysis of impacts to biological resources is inadequate. Our ecologist, Dr. Sean Smallwood, visited the project site and personally observed and photographed a number of special status species on the project site, including a red-tailed hawk, merlin, California gull, and a great horned owl. Of particular concern, the MND concluded that the merlin was not likely to occur on the project site, yet Dr. Smallwood identified and photographed this species on the project site. That photograph is included in our written comments. Based on his site visit and review of the wildlife databases, in total, Dr. Smallwood concludes that there is a high likelihood of the occurrence of 47 special status species on the project site. Detection surveys are needed to analyze the project's potential impacts on these species. In addition, the MND relies on improperly deferred mitigation. For example, mitigation measure BIO2 states that if roosting bats are found on the project site, quote, CDFW shall be contacted about how to proceed. Courts have rejected nearly identical deferred mitigation in the case of Gentry versus the city of Marietta. CEQA does not allow this type of deferred development of mitigation measures until after project approval and after approval of the CEQA document. Specific mitigation measures must be set forth in the CEQA document so that the public can analyze whether those measures will be sufficient to reduce the project's impact to a level below significant. Second, there's substantial evidence that the project may have a significant health risk impact. The environmental consulting firm SWAPE reviewed the health risk assessment included in the MND and found a number of errors. For example, the MND assumes that only 20% of total vehicle trips generated by the project will be truck trips. Yet the South Coast Air Quality Management District recommends using a 40% truck trip rate for warehouse projects like this. When SWAPE updated the model to correct this and other errors, they determined that the excess cancer risk over the course of a residential lifetime at the nearest sensitive is 160 in 1. This is 26 times the threshold of 10 per million. To conclude, we request that the Commission decline to approve the MND.
That was the end of the 3 minutes.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. At this point, I'll let the applicant respond to both the public comment and to the staff report if they have anything to add.
I think, Stephanie, if you can unmute either Cameron and Bridget, please.
So if they want to respond, if Cameron or Bridget wants to respond.
Sure. This is Cameron Heil. I guess, I mean, we did respond, fairly thoroughly in writing to this, which is included in the staff report. I will say from the recording, it sounded like the two concerns on the recording had to do with biological impacts and with health risk impacts having to do with the way that the emissions were modeled. Can you still hear me, everybody? Yes. Okay. So when it comes to the biological impacts, the statement that that it was unlikely for Merlin to occur, it still remains true even if a biologist saw a Merlin on the site, and even if in that situation, and this is the reason that we include the mitigation measures in the bio section, is you can say it might not happen because the site's it's completely surrounded by development and it's been disturbed, but that's why we include the mitigation measures, because it's always a possibility that migratory birds will occur on the project site. And so for that impact, we included mitigation measure bio 1, which says that if vegetation removal is scheduled to occur during the nesting season, then focus surveys for nests shall be performed prior to issuance of site disturbance permits. And there are a number of constituents within that mitigation measure that talk about what needs to be done if there are nests discovered in order to avoid them. And so this is fairly common mitigation when it comes to nesting and migratory birds. It's similar with roosting bats, and we've got bio measure 2 roosting bats as well. And these are very common standard measures we use for these biological resources. And the other comment was it had to do with the health risk assessment. And so that comment really was predicated on the argument that the percentage of trucks that we used in our modeling was too small, and therefore our model is underestimating the amount of emissions that are being put out, and thus the health impact, and that the truck trip generation numbers that we use and that pretty much the entire industry uses. Well, and actually we have Alex Tabrizi here from the traffic engineer, if he wants to speak to that. But I will just say that the percentages that we use are accepted percentages for truck trips that are accepted by jurisdictions all over the state. And if Alex wants to add anything to that.
If I may, commissioners, the how do I start? CEQA is not the Environmental Quality Act is not an exact science. You know, there are a lot of assumptions that are made. You know, there's a lot of experts out there, and a lot of these studies that are prepared, whether it's a biological study, traffic study, whatever the case may be, they're always done at different times of the year, depending on where the cycle of the project is and what have you. And so there is a practice that governs how these mitigated negative declarations are prepared. There's a number of models that could be utilized, and so it's you know, really becomes project specific, city specific, and so it's you know, you could pick up a document like this in any city, in any different city than San Bernardino, and many times there'll be some slight variation of their assumptions or formulas and those kinds of things. All we can do is what we best analyze at the time, and the mitigation measures are simply to address what are possibilities. And so if you look, what's considered a significant impact, and what can we do to mitigate that? We have conditions of approval as an example that we include so that projects, when they're developed, whether it's a street widening or repairing the sidewalk or putting in new signals, those are all kind of like mitigation measures. Things like if construction is going to commence, we don't know if there's a red-tailed hawk out there today. We don't know if there's going to be one out there tomorrow, or some kind of frog or what have you. We don't know unless we're standing out there every day watching. And it's not uncommon to visit a site at different times of the year, and maybe you observe something different, whether it's the time of the year, temperature. I mean, there are some creatures that wouldn't dare to come out, me included, in 110 degrees like we had today in San Bernardino. But in any event, so the mitigation measures, they're intended to capture whatever possibilities there may be of an impact. And so, as an example, we have mitigation measures as it relates to our tribal consultation. And so we don't know if there's any artifacts that are underneath that surface. However, if there's when the grading's being done and they're excavating for their, trenching for their footings and things, and they come across something in the dirt, mitigation measures call that while they're doing these activities, that there's someone out there monitoring, watching the digging, if you will. And if something is discovered or unearthed, guess what? You stop all grading, they call an expert out, and then they determine what it is that they dug up. And so what I'm getting at is that we had reviewed the document that was submitted by this group. We have worked both internally with staff and the consulting team to best address those concerns that were raised, ensure that our document was substantially adequate, and that's what we're presenting to you this evening. I will say, if you refer to the site plan, earlier I noted that there are 11 dock doors. Typically, a building of this size, especially this size or that width, it currently proposed, it only has about 25%, or roughly 25% of what an industrial building of this size would typically have. again, when I did mention that we did some variations or other renditions of the site plan or the project, that was one of the factors that we considered. You know, we did not feel that this particular location was was such that you could have dock doors from one end of the building to the other, facing facing Inland Center Drive, and so that's why it was reduced back. And so my guess is that, and I believe that the intent of this building is not to be a sole what I'll call in fulfillment center or distribution kind of a thing, like maybe like the Amazons or some of the other projects that we see. I believe that it's something that's more conducive to having a product that will be shipping what they have there at that facility. I don't know if that helps or answers any questions that you may have, but I would be glad to engage any other comments if need be. Thank you.
Let me just for a minute to echo what Oliver said. The environmental document that is presented, like he said, there is a lot of studies that goes into this environmental document, which include traffic, as what the applicants just said. We take that report and we analyze it, and we look through it, and then based on that report, some of our condition of approval on the project, it's what come from that report. So we look at it and from our engineering perspective and from the mitigation, and then we take this mitigation and we turn them into conditions for the building when they build. So that is something that we do from in public works world, and then that is what the conditions that you get at the end after we did all with these studies and things like that. Thank you, Oliver.
Thank you, Alex.
Mr. Bob Price, if you wanted to make a comment.
Yes, sorry, I didn't know quite how to come in. My name is Bob Prossi. I'm the Director of Environmental Services for MIG. So I worked with Cameron on this project. And I just wanted to mention that I listened closely to the speaker's comments. Those comments were all comments that they made in their comment letter on the initial study mitigated negative declaration when it went out for public circulation. And I would just want to add that those comments were reviewed and we provided comprehensive responses to all those comments that are included in your packet. I believe they're included as one of the appendices, but it's in the final mitigated negative declaration. So there were no issues. So there are no new issues that they raised that were not addressed in that documentation, and that documentation, those responses, I believe, are a part of your public record. So something for you to consider when you make your decision on the project.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
So at this time, I'll go down the list from ward to ward to see what the commissioners have to say, starting with Commissioner Guerrero.
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
All right. Going on to Commissioner Lopez. Oh, if you could unmute yourself.
How's that? Can you hear me now? All right, I'm sorry. I got traveling fingers here. Okay. I do have some concerns. It's obvious that the staff and the last gentleman who spoke really want to have this project passed. But what we have is what we have before us. And the comments from the speaker about the environmental impact, it's unfortunate that we didn't have that in writing because there was a lot of substance there, delivered very quickly in the time frame that I guess she was allowed. I would have appreciated having those beforehand, because they're bringing this to our table, to this planning commission to weigh and consider. On the other side, the last gentleman who spoke said that there was nothing new and that they had responded to all of the things that were brought up previously. Yet I don't recall ever seeing anything regarding what the response was. If you were to ask me to make a decision to vote today, I'd have to say, no, I can't until I hear or I can see what it is that the speaker is presenting, because there is a lot of substance there. And then what was responded by the developer. Now, the person who spoke before, I don't think we saw his picture. He was having a difficult time responding to some of the things that the speaker presented. And I wasn't convinced, because I think I need to see a little bit more. So is that a possibility?
If I may, commissioners.
No, Oliver, you took a lot of time already. You said a mouthful, and I appreciate it.
Did I use my 3 minutes?
That I really do, because you're talking about we can only estimate, we can't always know for sure until we start digging and so forth. But there were a lot of other things that this speaker was talking about, and I don't think that they were fully addressed, not here before this. And I don't know if the other members got that report and the response or anything, but I know I didn't. But go ahead.
I was just going to say at the end of our staff report where it says attachments, we referenced the 2 links of the documents. The first link is for the draft environmental impact report that went out. I mean, an environmental mitigated negative declaration that went out for public review. The second document, I believe, which is attachment, it's either F or G, which is a document that includes a copy of the letter that was submitted by the speaker. And then it also includes the responses.
That included all of that, what she had just said?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Now, I will tell you that the second document is approximately 700 pages in thickness, not including the technical studies that were prepared. So what we typically do, and you may have noticed this in other staff reports when it has a mitigated negative declaration, we provide the link maybe to save a couple of trees, because typically these documents they range anywhere from 500 to 1,200 pages when you include copies of the technical studies. A traffic study is 400 pages by itself, and so again it was analyzed, and if you feel that you need some more time so you can go back and review those, I certainly would welcome the commission to do that. Maybe if that's your preference, to have time, that's certainly something that is available to you as well.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
All right. Commissioner Liang, any comments?
Yes, Oliver, if we can go back to the site plan, if you could explain to me on that fencing requirements again. I didn't grasp the site plan there, and there's no street name, there's no north arrow. I wasn't sure if we could go back and re-examine that a little bit for clarity. Thank you.
So for point of reference, the top of the slide is Inland Center Drive. Okay,
I wish it would be labeled with the Inland Center Drive.
We had cut and pasted our,
okay, thank you.
And so that's Inland Center Drive, and so to the left of the slide is where the existing mobile home park is. Just for point of references. So along the left-hand side and along the bottom, there will be an 8-foot high block wall at the property line. You'll see that green strip that goes along the left, and to the bottom, that's an 11-foot landscape planter. To the top, on the top of the slide, that green strip there is 20 feet in width from the back of sidewalk. The lower portion of that landscape strip, there is an 8-foot high block wall there. So if you're on Inland Center Drive, it blocks the view of those dock doors that are recessed.
Where's the truck parking stalls would be at?
You see how that building is kind of U-shaped right there where the little hand on the cursor is, where those little dots are? Those dots are actually where the dock doors are at.
So what about the truck parking stalls? Do we have any, does the site plan provide any truck parking stalls?
No, it's just for delivery. The parking is right there at the loading dock.
So the trucks.
They do not have truck parking or truck storage there. So the other parking stalls are just for employees only. So essentially, at any given time, you'll have you'll have 11 trucks on site.
Interesting. So do we know who the tenant would be or tenants?
I don't know. I'm not sure if Bridget has an idea who the tenant may be at this time. Bridget is the architect.
This is Bridget Herdman. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you. And thank you, Oliver, for presenting our project. No, this project is still speculative at this time. And so we are building a building that should meet most of the local demand for something of this size, but we don't have a tenant in mind yet.
And you don't anticipate that the trucks would have overflowed? I mean, there would be, assuming you have more trucks at the site, I mean, where would the trucks would park? I don't understand the way you designed a warehouse where you don't have truck parking stalls besides the loading.
There are different types of, we design a variety of types of warehouse buildings in this industrial sector in Southern California. And for this size building, for this market right here, the 11 dock doors is more than sufficient for what's anticipated for use in this building. So it's likely that a future tenant would actually only use probably half of the doors and would still have overflow space, but by setting it up this way, it gives them complete flexibility where they want to put their dock levelers, how they want to rack the inside of the building. Every tenant that we deal with, when tenants come along, they're all very specific, especially when you get into these smaller buildings. It's not the same as a really large 250,000 square foot to 1 million square foot building, which is a heavy distribution user, which would utilize a lot of trailer spaces for excess overflow because they're running so much product in and out. This is a much smaller project and we don't anticipate that use. So we've set it up for the market in that way.
So I noticed the city recently adopted the VMT. Was a VMT required as part of this set?
No, it wasn't, because the document was circulated before July 1st. It was actually circulated back in October of 2019.
Okay.
And then it was recirculated in December of 2019.
That's correct.
All right.
Now, in terms of the screen wall fronting inland, do we have a cross sections of that, or how would that be articulated in terms of compatibility with building features?
We're going to use it'll be a decorative on the street side. So it's not, it won't be just flat concrete block.
Can we ensure that as the conditions of approval or embed that in somewhere? I'm not seeing that. I didn't see that as.
Yes, we can.
That it would be enhanced with decorative block, or your tilt up with pilasters to break up that long spacious.
We can do that, and if your preference, if you're looking at that site plan, Stephanie, do you see those little rectangles there on the right and left there, just above the truck parking delivery doors? Over to the right a little bit more. See that one there? So there's that one there, and then there's one on the other side. Those two. So essentially between those two planters, that's where the wall is. If it's the desire of the commission, we could put one in front of those parking spaces, those car parking spaces. I if you are inclined to do something like that, my recommendation would be that there would be some articulation for those walls. In other words, so they jog back and forth a little bit, a couple of breaks. So it's not just a solid wall at, 200 feet in length or whatever that length is.
It seems to me it would be appropriate to screen all of that.
Okay. So we can do it for the length of the building, essentially. Is that what you're thinking, Commissioner?
Well, I think it would be the length of the landscape frontages there. Maybe just within the setback on the. Well, I don't.
Okay.
Any further comments, Commissioner Liang?
No, thank you.
No? Okay. Commissioner Wolbert, any comments?
The environmental report sounded like it came from my pasture backyard. Something that's not really conducive to this, but something that I'd like to consider in the future. On these big warehouse projects or any other commercial projects, street improvements only go to the center of the street. I think I'm correct on that. And these projects literally tear up the streets. I mean, just rip them apart. And I just, in the future, I don't know how we can do it, but I would like to see it, curb to curb. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Commissioner Chang?
Sorry, trying to unmute. After hearing what everyone said and every commissioner made really good comments, I have no further questions or comments at this time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Chang. All right. So this is actually in my ward. I do use the Inland Center exit and freeway entrance on a daily basis, or I used to when I could go outside more often. But I pass by this particular vacant land quite often. And I would really love to see this project go through. It is, I think, a great asset, as it has been vacant for as long as I can remember. I think before there used to be possibly a bar there. However, it was closed by the time we were in the neighborhood, and it's been 25 odd years or more. It looks good. I understand, Amelia, about the mitigations, about all of these concerns. However, each time that it was pushed back, I think it was pushed back maybe 2-3 times. It was brought up to the Planning Commission and it was pushed back. It was mentioned that they had seen some wildlife and that in the ecology and more reports were being done. I did actually look at some of the reports. I did not go through the 700 pages, but like any other project, like they were mentioning, animals come and go. Right across from this project is actually open land, several acres of just open land. It was going to be developed, however, it hasn't been, and it goes all the way, I believe, to almost the Colton line. We are bordering like that, so it goes up and then down, and it goes into almost like a little valley. It's got a few 100 yards of just open stuff there. I've actually never seen anything on this land in terms of birds. I have on the other side. I understand the worry about nesting and all those things. I'm 100% I'm animal lover and whatnot, but it's a hard thing to say, you can't live there anymore, but there hasn't been as much activity to say in that area. So in terms of that, I didn't have as much an issue. Something I did have a comment on was lighting for the property. I know you guys are having the 8-foot high walls, the separations and everything. security and lighting, I just wanted a few more clarifications if I could have that from Oliver or from the architect of the building. Could you shed more light on that?
Bridget, do you have a response for that? Do you have that information?
Sure. I'm not, I can't recall on this one if we've already spoken with you, Oliver, on height of lighting. We obviously need to meet just minimum for safety, and typically the police department will have a requirement for a foot candle level down at the site level. But needless to say, because of the screen wall, we can place the light low enough and with a cutoff shield so that there isn't bleed onto the other surrounding neighbors. And even in addition, even if there isn't specifically something with this project, the state of California would require it through CalGreen anyway to have significant light cutoff. So we can definitely comply with that. And if that's a condition, we're fine with that as well.
Thank you.
Perfect. Just because I don't want, problems, especially with the mobile home being right there, if them, being like, oh, it's now very bright or whatnot, just so that we have good relations with neighbors. In terms of the landscaping, will you be keeping the same theme as its neighboring building? Of like almost...
Yes, I believe it is similar, and the same landscape architects involved. Of course, if anything has become more stringent since that one was approved about 4.5, 5 years ago, if anything's more stringent with the irrigation requirements to date, there might be some slight modifications we have to make. But we designed the buildings to be compatible and to really complement each other.
Perfect. Okay, because that is and has been kept and maintained, and it does look very nice. And it was a very welcome thing that we had something happening in the property adjacent to it or the neighboring property. I think for the most part, those are my comments on those things. I'll go one more time around with the commissioners if they have additional comments or something they want to add.
Quick question. I know Bridget mentioned the building features to enhance the existing structure there. So in terms of architectural features, it would be a match to the existing structure, or how does this play into with the existing structure?
Yes, it is very similar. Oliver, I don't know if you have any of those. I think we did some rendering, even 3D rendering, but yes, it's extremely similar. Same glazing features at the corners, so the two north pop out really read as a Class A office project. It's really beautiful. We have cornice. It's a nice natural warm set of paint colors, so we're using the same paints as that are on the other building. It's actually a really beautiful project. This client is really interested in making sure that they have a good impact on the surroundings and are building something that's truly beautiful.
Thank you.
I think, oh, yes, Commissioner Chang.
Yes, going back to the landscape again. I don't know if this was asked earlier, so my apologies. Would you have would you be planting any new trees around this building? And what type of, have you got folks give some more thoughts about the type of landscaping?
Yes, we do have some new trees, and I apologize, I don't have the landscape architect on for this meeting, but yes, there's a requirement for a certain type of tree. I think we even have some street trees potentially in the frontage. But yeah, we are definitely augmenting around the site with trees in addition to just ground landscaping.
That would be nice to have shades, trees that give shade along the street, and another question I have is regarding the noise. I don't know if this was discussed about the noise level that this project could generate after hours. That after 10 p.m., after folks go to sleep, would they have operations at 0 o'clock in the morning, for example?
The tenant is unknown at this time, but actually what you're addressing was addressed per standard in the environmental documents for this type of use. And the building was situated to make sure that we didn't have truck activities adjacent to the residential neighborhoods. That was something that we actually have been working extensively. That was one of the first early comments when we started looking at this site with the planning department.
Yeah, my concern is that the residential neighborhood behind the block walls, right, and then the also the residential neighborhood to the south side of the project site. I think that's the mobile home community, right? Even though with the block wall, and when you have the trucks going around the building, you can the trucks generate a low frequency noise. It can still be quite disturbing in the middle of the night if it's ongoing operation. Yeah.
We actually have gated the lane that's around the building so that trucks would not pass around there, and we've made the turning radiuses so that it works for fire trucks, but it is not intended for the trucks to circulate around behind the building whatsoever. And we've used the building to, in addition to the block wall at the property line, you also actually have the physical building shielding noise from the truck dock area.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was looking at the plan. I wasn't clear on that. I know there's a gate. Now you explain it to me, I understand. Thank you.
And then I just have one last comment. Commissioner Liang was mentioning an additional wall in front of the parking area. Could we get a little more description on some idea of that? And that way we can get approval maybe from the architect themselves and the applicant. That way we can add it if it is the commission's will.
If I may try, I would suggest that the application shall include the installation of a solid 8-foot high block wall. I would say from the driveway to the driveway, so it goes from end to end, and that there would be some articulation along that block wall. So it kind of goes, you know, there's a little bit of jog. You don't just have one straight wall. You know, there's some setbacks and things, and then we could incorporate some landscaping in those recessed areas and those kinds of things. We typically do that on some of our other industrial projects, and we could certainly do that with that. So the suggestion would be that the applicant shall install a solid wall with articulation along the frontage from the two driveways from the east to the western driveways, something to that effect.
Okay.
Could I just mention? Sorry, yes, I just wanted to comment on that. I appreciate the concern and wanting to make sure that we shield anything that is not a benefit to the public. But the actual office corners of the building, the pop-outs, really have heavy articulation and are actually, you know, a really pretty piece of architecture to look at. It's extensive glazing. There's moldings around the windows. There's cornice, and to run the 8-foot block wall in front of the actual office corners, which is what would happen if we ran it driveway to driveway, I think we would be blocking a lot of the articulation that we're providing the city. At least holding it back, I don't know, 25, 30 feet or something from those driveways, that you can see the architecture that's being designed instead of just a block wall at the street. I fully understand you wanting to block the truck activity and the truck court. That I 100% support that. But that would just be my comment about putting a block wall in front of the office pop-out.
Stephanie, would you be kind enough to pull the site plan back up, please? It's probably the third slide. So as Bridget was mentioning, I'm going to call this building like U-shaped. So if you see the two parts of the buildings on the right and the left-hand side that stick up above beyond the truck parking area, that is what's referenced. And maybe Stephanie, if you can click back to slide 2, the one before this, which shows the rendering, please. So that is what those two parts of the building that stick up at the ends, that's what it looks like. And so if you notice, if you look closely at the rendering, on the lower left-hand side, you see a gate there. So that's where the truck entrance is. And so for point of reference, maybe if we can go back to the site plan again, Stephanie, please. So that the gate would be right there. That's where the gate is. And so so again, if you look at those, whatever those are, those 9 parking stalls that are there in the front of the building. So as the site is currently designed, there is not a wall in front of those parking spaces as it's currently designed. That's if we want to maybe where the gates are, Stephanie, where the rolling gates are. If you go to the planter just to the above where it comes down like an L, just to the left a little bit, right there. So maybe if we want to put a return the wall there from the street, so it goes along the frontage and then it comes down where the gate is. If that helps, I'm not sure. As a suggestion.
And actually, Oliver, as you kind of talked through this, it brings another point I would just want to point out. If we extend that wall for that full frontage in front of all of those stalls, now we've created something that can be accessed at nighttime after hours that isn't gated, that individuals could loiter in and hide behind that wall, because we can't gate it. At some point, you know, the employees and traffic needs to travel into that area for parking in our ADA accessible stalls right there. So I don't know if that's something that the city wants to see. I think I'm unclear about extending the wall that full width and the intent.
Yeah, so the idea is really to screen the loading activity. And so if you were to make that return on the 2 returns, that might provide the coverage for the screening.
And I think that's a great idea. And if we hadn't done that, we should actually do that for sure, have the returns there, so that the solid screen wall returns down and it's just the gates that open, so that we are fully screened around that truck court and with the decorative articulated wall.
Yeah, in terms of graffiti in that area, you know, that long span of having that wall there could be problematic. But I think the return would serve the purpose of screening those loading activities, trucking activities. And in addition, I think what's the height of the building? 42, 45 feet? So you could still, I mean, I know showing off the building, I have to say the building is a nice looking building. There's nothing wrong with showing it off in terms of street frontages there. But it is, I'm assuming because it's a warehouse, so we're looking at anywhere from 42 to 45 feet. So you would still catch a lot of those, you know, articulation, whether if you have that wall in front of the vehicles or not. But I think the concern here is that long expansive wall could attract, because of its location, you know, in terms of graffitis and other things. It seems to me that that return may provide adequacy for screening. But the idea, if the building features would still be, you know, those redeeming features would still be seeable from the public view, whether with the wall or without the wall.
I can appreciate what you're mentioning there about the height.
Just kind of going off of the conversation and just clarifying, the 2 upside down pentagons on these, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, so the pentagons. That's where a wall will be, correct? Between those, yes. I honestly have no problem with the other parts being a little bit open. You guys are having that gate, And you guys do have the little L part that comes down that is going to be a little bit higher, correct? Almost matching the height of almost of the wall, or what are you thinking there?
Yes, I think the return, the leg of that wall where it comes to meet the gate should match the frontage wall and all be articulated the same with the same detailing, same height.
Perfect. So that it is kept, you know, secured and everything, so no one just comes in or whatnot. I mean, looking at the renderings that you've had and everything of the building, I think the building does look nice. If it's anything like the adjacent building to its left, looking on from Inland Center Drive, I think it'll be a really pretty building. I have no issue about, you know, if you wanted to put a wall and everything as more security, that would be your prerogative. However, I don't see it as very, very necessary. It is a calmer neighborhood, and I don't think there'll be as much. In terms of the graffiti, I totally agree. You know, there's graffiti all throughout the city, throughout all cities. Just maybe putting a little green on your wall and everything. They can't really paint over those. And you are going to have quite a bit of land. You said about 20 feet or so of that of greenage there and landscaping. So I think it'll be kept up and look well. I don't think a wall is totally necessary there. I mean, if you wanted to put maybe a gate for protection, you know, for your vehicles or whatnot, you know, just so that it seems a little privater, but I don't think a wall is completely necessary. Is there any further comments from our commissioners they wanted to add to this, or? If not, then I will close public hearing for this item. And I will entertain a motion for this item.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this project and as modified with the 8-foot wall with the returns with decorative features to enhance the main structure.
Yes, Alex.
For Sanchez, I may have, did we get the applicant on the record to agree to that additional wall requirement? Because if not, we should ask formally for the record.
Okay. You know what? Prior to, I guess, asking approval from the applicant, if the commissioners want to make a comment, do they think the extra wall section from entrance to entrance necessary, or if we could just have a few comments from our commissioners? Commissioner Wolbert, any comments on the additional part of the wall?
Excuse me, I don't have any comment. Thank you.
So you're fine if it does or doesn't have the wall?
I don't really see either way. I don't have any problem with either way.
Okay. Commissioner Lopez, do you have any comments on having a wall be added?
No comment.
No comments? Okay, so either way. Commissioner Guerrero, any comments in favor of having a wall or not?
I would agree to add the wall.
Okay.
And
okay. Commissioner Chang, any comments pro for having the wall, additions or not?
I think it will help. Yes. To the wall. Yes.
To add the wall.
Yes.
Okay. So to the applicant, are you amenable to having that added?
Could I just clarify, and I'm sorry to add more conversation to this, but when Commissioner Liang just made the comment, I think he said, and the return. So I just wanted to clarify, are we talking about the return to the wall at the truck court gates, or actually extending the wall length, the full drive to drive?
Yes, I believe Commissioner Guerrero and Commissioner Chang, it sounded like they said they wanted the full length.
If that is, I guess, what it takes to get this approved, I don't think it's optimal. I think it's detracting, but I believe we would want the project to move forward with that condition, yes.
So just to clarify, it's with the return, not the entire wall length from driveway to driveway.
The returns I fully support. I think that is an excellent idea.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Then you fully approve for the returns, just having the full wall there.
Yeah.
Correct. I accept that condition.
Okay, perfect. All right. So we had a motion. Do we have a second for that with the amendment? I will second that. So we have a motion, we have a second. Stephanie, if we could have a vote roll call.
Commissioner Guerrero?
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez?
No.
Chair Sanchez?
Yes.
Commissioner Liang?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolbert?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
The item passes 5-1.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
No problem. I believe Commissioner Wolbert just signaled that he had to excuse himself for just a moment. We do still have quorum, I believe. So we will continue on and on to item number 6.
Hey, good evening. Yeah, item number 6 is development permit type P 20-04. And it's a request to allow for the development of 119 single-family residents within the previously approved tract map number of 2006 on a project site that's composed of 2 parcels containing approximately 28.2 acres. There is going to be 60 lots that will consist of 7,000 square feet. They will have 6 plans. The plan 1 would be about 2,000 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and that would be 1 story. You have plan 2, which is 2,274 square feet. That's 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, 2 story. Plan 3 will be 2,506 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and it would be a 2 story. Plan 4 would be approximately 2,522 square feet, 4 bedrooms again, 3 baths, and that would be a 1 story. Plan 5, it's approximately 2,824 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, 2 stories. And plan 6 is going to be approximately 3,179 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, 2 stories, and they will all have 3 different types of architectural features, which I'm going to show you in the next slide. This is the project site. This is part of the specific Rancho Palma site that was previously approved. Right now, this is just for the development of that previously approved subdivision and specific plan. This is a rendering of the street of the homes as they are going to look from the street elevations. As you can tell, they're all going to have different architectural features, coloring, texturing, in order to create variation within the development. The next slide. The single-family residential development is consistent with the guidelines of the Rancho Palma specific plan, the policies of the city's general plan, and complies with the standards of the city's development code as previously approved. This is the location of the Rancho Palma specific plan. The Rancho Palma specific plan, for those who were not here during that time, consisted of a residential development as well as a commercial development. This developer, they're going to be doing the residential development for the Rancho Palma specific plan. So that's what's being proposed today. And this is an aerial map of where it is located. As you can see, there is already a existing neighborhood a little bit to the north of the property. So it's going to be compatible and coincide with the rest of the neighborhood. As part of these previously approved specific plan, there was a lot of additional details that were incorporated to include adding some additional park area for a space that they're not able to use. So that's going to be part of the incorporation. Next slide. So at this time, our recommendation is that the Planning Commission adopt resolution number 2020-037, finding the categorical exemption and approving development permit type P 20-04 based on findings of fact and subject to the recommended conditions of approval. If you have any questions, the developer is here and she may be able to answer any questions. And if you have any questions for staff, I'm here as well as with Oliver.
All right. Thank you, Elizabeth. At this time, I will open public hearing for this item. Stephanie, do we have any public comments for this?
Not for this item.
Not for this item. Perfect. Does the applicant want to add anything to the staff report?
Hi, thank you, Commissioner and Planning Commissioners, our Chairperson and Commissioners Jeremy Kraut, representative of TrueMark Homes, speaking on behalf of the developer, and reviewed the staff report. Appreciate all the time your staff put into this to bring us to hearing quickly, and no, we have no comments or questions to ask.
Great, perfect. So I will go down the line of the commissioners, starting with Commissioner Guerrero. Do you have any comments about this project?
Just upon approval, how soon will you start development?
Currently, right now, they're actually in the process of getting plan check for all the homes. They are doing it at their own risk, and they've determined that they want to proceed that way because they want to get this started.
Okay, so they're not holding off them for funding?
They're not holding on. No, they're not.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lopez, any comments? All right. Commissioner Liang? There you are. Did you have additional comments to this? Oh, if you could unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Nice looking project. Lots of articulations in terms of those building elevations. Can we ensure or add conditions that the construction shall be in substantial in conformance with the buildings or with the houses there now? Just so that some of these building features would not be washed away or modified or lessened in any way. So you have nice articulations in terms of windows, entrances, things of that nature, roof line. So a lot of play and details in terms of those architectural features. So I just would want to make sure that those remain when a customer or when a homeowner buys that house, that they're getting all of these rendering as submitted in tonight's paperwork. So I didn't see any verbiage that would ensure that the construction of those homes would be in substantial conformance with the rendering as submitted.
Well, if I may, I believe it's condition number 2, maybe 2 or 3, that talks about the approval is based on the approved plans dated. It'll be tonight's meeting, and we will stamp the plans that we have on record for this particular project. If I may also add, as Elizabeth mentioned, the applicant and the developer for this project, they have proceeded with the kind of as you mentioned, the at their own risk to start the plan check process. The renderings that they provided was something that we had asked them for. So the after they submit for plan check, so what you see in these renderings is basically reflective, and is based off of the elevations that are included in the construction documents. But we will make further clarification to make sure that there is that as close to exact as possible. I understand what you're saying. Sometimes materials get swapped out or what have you, and that's not the. I don't believe that that's the intent of this
No, I see that in the conditions of approval number 2. Thank you for pointing that out. Second, on conditions of approval number 9, this is the project landscape plan shall be in substantial conformance with the conceptual landscape plan. So looking at the conceptual landscape plan, you have a lot of these dinky trees, the 24-inch box. I consider that to be, quite small relative to the proposed project in size. You've got a massive track with over 100 units there. I think 36-inch box trees would enhance a lot of these in terms of entrance area or some of the parkway or so I would like to suggest in terms of the conceptual landscape plan, add the 36-inch boxes in there.
Any particular locations, or replace the 24 with the 36?
I think if the landscape plan can add, in addition to the 24-inch box trees, I think if we can add to enhance by adding additional 36-inch box, whether it's replacing the existing 24-inch box, that's fine. But I think in terms of play, if we can have some variation and not straight out 24-inch box trees.
To add that, they have also moved forward with their landscaping, so I can, maybe Maggie or I can provide additional information. So they are going to be doing different types of landscaping, one for the HOA, one for the CFD, one for the Ronald Reagan Park, that the section of the piece that they're going to be adding to the Ronald Reagan Park. So as part of that, they are going to have a variation of type of landscape of trees consisting of 48-inch box trees, 36-inch box trees that are going to be approximately 35 of those. They are going to have the 24-inch box trees. They're estimating about 67. So I guess my question, Commissioner Liang, is would you want them to add more of the 36 inches in comparison to what they're proposing at this time?
Yeah, in terms of the documents I was looking at, the conceptual landscape plan, and I appreciate your comments about adding more larger trees in size. That's great. And then considering, the quality with the homes they're bringing in, I think the landscaping, the trees should enhance that. But in terms of what's in the submitted documents, because of the pursuant to the conditions of approval number 9, even though you mentioned that, these bigger boxes would be included, but then again, looking at the plan, I didn't see that. I only see the 24-inch box trees. So if they were to build pursuant to the conditions of approval number 9, it would be, they could easily, those trees could be easily removed or disregard. So I want to make sure that the substantial in conformance with the conceptual landscape, maybe I'm not seeing it, that to ensure that it's when you say that the conceptual is in substantial conformance with the landscape plan, that the landscape plan reflect those trees in sizes and the correct statement that you just raised.
Commissioner Liang, would you be comfortable if we specified in the conditions where, as mentioned, we have landscaping that's going to be provided in front yards, right, in front of the homes that are to be constructed, and then we have landscaping in the common areas, whether it's the internal parkways or we have a couple of pocket parks. There we go. In there, and maybe maybe we for clarification in those areas outside of in front of the front yard or what have you, maybe those are the trees that we specify for 36 inch kind of in the within the HOA or the CFD areas.
Yeah, and that's fine. I just want to make sure that the clarity, the consistency is carried through pursuant to their conditions of approval. Number 9 is a substantial inconformance, but when you look at the conceptual plan submitted in your exhibits, they don't show anything bigger than your 24-inch box. And I just want to make sure that we get all of the sizes that, as Elizabeth mentioned, that bigger than 36-inch box trees, so that when you put them in, you don't need to wait 10 years in order for them to mature. I mean, we have a great track, so you could have all these trees that come immediately into play to enhance the, the park setting, the front yard setting, all of that. So that's number 3. Looking at the block wall, this is in your packet again. Sheet 13 of 19. This is the plan showing cross-section for block wall, etc. There seems to be some inconsistency with the block walls. So one area they have
Stephanie, would you mind putting the site plan back up, please? So Commissioner, we have the site plan up here. Maybe it'll help clarify the areas that you're speaking about.
Yeah, so I'm not sure in terms of the plan that I'm looking at. It's a cross section, right? So it's sheet 11. So the block wall has, one-sided, and then where the let me see if I can enlarge this a little bit. It's a split face. Can't really see that. So, well, long story short, I just want to make sure that the walls are all with split face on both sides, so there wouldn't be any area where it would just be one split face and then the other precision block wall, for example. So if we can capture that in the plans and in the conditions of approval, I think we would be all right. So this would provide consistency with all other tract homes north of this site and within this area, that the split face are on both sides articulated in terms of the block wall. If we can capture that, I think it would make this tract map, this development would enhance this area. That's my third comment, just to make sure, because in some area, in certain plan sections that you have here, calls out both face with split face, and then in some area where you call out just one area with split face and then the other with precision. So I don't see that consistency being carried out. So if we can update that or add a conditions to requiring it that there wouldn't be any precisions as part of the block wall, and then all the block wall would be with split face at both ends, whether it's facing public street or private entity or yard, for example.
So if you're in your backyard, you still have that decorative wall in front of you.
Correct.
Your back wall, right?
That's right. And I'm not sure if the section sheet 11 and 12, where the location would be. I really can't see that. It's not really clear on the plans, but I just want to make sure that the inconsistency in terms of the block wall can be eliminated, and then have one uniform split face on both sides of all the wall for the entire track.
So we could include or modify a condition that says that all walls shall be split face on both sides.
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm sorry, Stephanie, could you put the site plan back up again, please? just for clarification, Commissioner Liang, on the trees, when we were talking about specifically the 36-inch box, are there any particular locations as we look at this site plan where you think those may be a little bit more appropriate as we scatter those through? Or
yeah, thank you. So I think where the main entrance is, where all the entrances are, you got right in that area, and then you've got on Magnolia Avenue,
right,
where there's another entrance exit area. I think it deserves some emphasis in terms of landscaping, and then of course kind of play out through the entire internal street as well. I think if we can capture that as you drive through, meandering around the site, that you would see different sizes and not just these little dinky 24-inch box, because that's going to take a while before it comes into play. And I think the 36-inch box and bigger would immediately capture that with the surrounding and be compatible with the existing homes, with the bigger trees that are sort of in the existing the vicinity.
If I may suggest, maybe we use two varieties of tree. I tend to lean towards the evergreen. Maybe one, and I'm not sure which one would be 24-inch or which one would be 36-inch box. But I also think that we should include that one of the species of the trees be flowering or colorful of sorts, so that we not only have the height and size variation, but we have the aesthetic color variation.
Right.
Oliver, let me, commissioners, if you don't mind, let me just remind you that as the public works, for any trees that is in a public right of way, we have a list of trees that can go into the public right of way. We cannot, it's not all trees acceptable. And to be honest with you, we just created the CFD for this track. And if I remember correctly, the trees on Little League and the trees in Magnolia, and the applicant, correct me if I'm mistaken, they all 36 inches, 36-inch box trees. I believe that is one of the conditions when we created the CFD for the area, for all trees to be 36-inch box.
Right. Thank you for that. And I take your statement there in terms of what's being presented here. But looking through the documents, I'm not.
I understand.
And so we have we have an A spot and then the B spot. They're not talking right in terms of the submitted plan. So and I understand that there are approved trees, within the right of way. I'm not specifically speaking of within the right of way. I'm speaking within certain, emphasized area. And it doesn't have, it could be an evergreen tree. It could be Australian Brisbane. That's kind of like, that's your drought tolerant species. They work really well with 110 degree. They provide a perfect tree shades immediately, for some of the, for the surrounding area. I think it would be much appreciated if we can get the kind of shades and the kind of trees out there. So one being Australian Brisbane, they're very sturdy. They very drought resistant. 110. They grow out in the outback in Australia, and so if we can add that on there and play with this different locations, and then of course for the approved trees, the street trees, if we can get all 36-inch box and bigger, that would be great. Residual, and I'm not certain about the trees that shape the leaves, because I think what we need is lots of shades and just kind of bigger trees. That's kind of where I'm trying to get at in terms of matching with some of the upscale homes further up north, and I think it would do nicely in terms of the trees, but it's just not being communicated with the submitted plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Liang. I totally understand on the tree front, and I think the clarification of it is in the approved, but we just don't receive those papers. Perfect. Commissioner Wolbert, do you have any comments?
Well, I think this is great. It's something I've been really anxious to see and hear. Housing, which we haven't been having. But with the history, how far, well, it doesn't make any difference because you're ready to do it. I was going to say, what is the history of this? Now, is there anything at all, any monkey wrench at all, that could slow this down, that has been a problem since day one, or anything else? I mean, just anything at all that could slow it down or stop it?
In terms of the city, no. I mean, we've been working with the developer, trying to get them through the plans, trying to get them through the plan check process, trying to get them through the development process for the site. You know, we've been working together. So, I mean, in terms of our end, we've been trying to move forward and push the project forward because we think it's a really good project for that area. I think the applicant has been pretty well working together. We've been in communication constantly. So I don't think there should be anything, you know, slowing it down. But unfortunately, I can't predict the future. So it's kind of hard to predict any kind of other catastrophe that may happen.
Yeah, I understand. Well, what about, okay, point blank. You have all the water department's requirements taken care of?
Yeah, so they, as part of the requirements through building and safety, they do also have to do submittals through the water department. So they have to do separate submittals to the water department in order for them to get the proper permits. So they do have other departments they have to work through, but in general, when it comes to trying to get a project moving forward, I know the other departments try to work with the developers as much as they can.
And if I may, commissioners, as part of recording a final map, developers are required to provide the improvement plans, the offsite improvement plans. So engineering has already approved the infrastructure plans. So we know where the water line is going to be, the sewer, utilities, and such. They've already approved where their storm drains are going to be, catch basins, where the sidewalks are going to be. All that's been designed, and all that is required by our development code. Actually, it's required by state law prior to recording your final map. This project does have a final map recorded. It's already been approved by the council, accepted by the council. It's already been recorded with the county. And as we mentioned, the project plans have already been submitted. The construction plans for the homes have already been submitted. We're kind of before you this evening. We as we were looking through, doing our due diligence and reviewing the construction drawings. Lo and behold, in some fine print of the specific plan, it says that any future development needs to come back to the Planning Commission for approval of the homes. And so that's why we're before you this evening. Otherwise, the applicant, they're ready to move forward, and so I believe, frankly, this is the last step in their journey. Is an affirmative vote of the commissioners this evening, and by this time next year we'll see 100 and some odd homes up there, moving.
Just to follow up on Oliver's comment, yes, there is the offsite improvement plans. The grading plans have been submitted to the city. It's going under plan check at this time. In a matter of fact, we have a meeting tomorrow with the developer to go over the comments and the plan check status and all of this kind of thing. So we are working with them, and they are diligently wanting to get this going. So we expecting that you like Oliver said, see homes, by next year.
That I really like hearing that. And just the reason I'm asking this is every time we've got something like this in front of us, there's always something that takes 5 years to do. I've been working on it for 5 years, and there's still in a log jam wanting extensions. We all have been hearing all that, but this is good news. I think this is a real step forward for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Chang?
I have no comment. Looks good project to me. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. I know looking at this project, I thought it would be beautiful. You have a variety of options in terms of the homes. Honestly, I just wrote looks beautiful for my comments for this. And then as I was seeing, there seems like almost a little bit of cul-de-sac. It looked like Magnolia was almost a cul-de-sac. My only caution was, is there enough exit in case of fire or any, because it is closer up to the mountains and we want to be, cautious of that.
Understood. Yeah, that was something that was addressed.
If I may, the county fire department did review the specific plan, and it does comply with their emergency access requirements.
Perfect. Okay. I thought I saw that, but I just wanted to clarify. I think this will be a beautiful project. I have nothing further to say. I just thank you for bringing this to our city, and hopefully a year we'll see, these beautiful homes.
If I may, commissioners, I believe the applicant's representative, Mr. Kraut, wants to make a couple comments.
Oh, yes.
Jeremy.
Thank you, Oliver, and thank you, Chairperson and Commission, for your comments. I appreciate them. And Commissioner Lang, thanks for the ideas on improving the design. I just want to address two things, if you don't mind. One is for the precision block versus the split face block walls that you're asking for some revisions to the plans. I just wanted to point out to the specific plan, and sorry, I'm looking at two screens here. One is with the information on the other screen, so apologize when I'm turning away. On page 4-44 of the specific plan applicable to this site, the plan specifically states interior. It talks about the types of walls that are planned throughout the community, and which types of walls would be required in certain circumstances, and other types of walls and others. And so they recognize the different viewpoints and public facing elements of the walls. And so on that page, it talks about community walls being split face block, so consistent with what the plans show. And I think what Commissioner Liang is discussing, and the interest in having a nice looking wall facing the community areas, especially. The plans, as Commissioner Liang pointed out, has another condition where it's recognizing public versus private, meaning the interior yards of each home. And for that, the specific plan actually says interior and side yard. So not just the interior being like a private yard, backyard for a home, but also private streets or interior streets. It talks about walls that won't be visible to the public realm would be just precision block. So it doesn't require the split face being on both sides, and like what is proposed in certain circumstances where it is a public realm facing wall. So the project goes a little bit above what the specific plan requires by putting the split face on these streets, these interior streets. But as specified in the specific plan, it talks about just having the precision block on the interior side of the like the backyard areas of the homes. So the plans are recognizing or referencing the specific plan. And I think the reason there was a difference between those two areas is often a private homeowner will plant up against walls and screen the interior, screen those walls, or do other improvements within the private areas. So adding the additional cost that is associated with split face on the interior is not often valued or recognized by the homeowners. Just adds a little bit more cost to the home. So I guess with respect to on behalf of the applicant, if we could not make that change to those wall types for the walls within the walls facing the interior of the lots, just again recognizing what the specific plan requires.
If you want to unmute yourself, Commissioner Liang.
Thank you. So in terms of the submittal packet here with the precision block wall, and I'm not sure if it's not clear if it's if it would front public views or streets or adjacent homeowners, but I think we're talking about precision block wall. If I just heard you correctly, so we're just talking about private yards. Now, what about the other side fronting? You've got block wall that's, I'm assuming the block wall is proposed between the homes. Am I correct? Oliver or
yes, that's correct. Yes.
Yes.
So when you say precisions, so it would go on the private, the ownership, the owners, but on the other side, would it be precision as well, or would that be split face?
Anything facing that should be split face, facing the street areas on Magnolia surrounding, that should be all split face. Yeah.
Thank you. But what about the walls between the homes?
The walls between the homes, I believe would be,
the specific plan does call for precision block between the homes. So on both sides of the wall will be a precision block on the side yards of the home. The specific plan does allow for that. I could point out that that's the minimum standard. Of course, this is a discretionary action, and so if the commission it was your pleasure for aesthetics reasons or whatever the case may be, to add increase that standard or that item, that's something that it's within your realm of being able to do.
Right, and I appreciate Jeremy, Mr. Crowd pointing out on the specific plan. I was not on the board in terms of the approval of the specific plan. And so, I would ask, being abutting to these other homes immediately to the north, you've got KB Homes, you've got these other NASDAQ listed company that came in and put up a lot of these homes. They all have split face wall. And I think in terms of the staff reports, in terms of the findings and the justification, I think it would be justifiable that you upgrade these things to match the existing homes that are done by previous developers, for example.
Yeah, Commissioner, I do want to, sorry if I wasn't clear. What I was saying is actually in those circumstances where it's a wall facing interior streets or other homes, it is actually split face. So like as an example, I'm looking at sheet 6 of 19 and on, so if you go to that page, there's a note, like if you see, for example, lot 37 on that page, it points out W-01A, which in the legend on the right-hand side at the top says freestanding block type, split face, single side, wherever facing the street or common area. So that does identify, the project does go above and beyond what the specific plan requires. It's again on the interior areas of the lots where they're facing the private yards, where they have the precision block. So I think that your comments are well placed. Fortunately, the applicant or the developer did consider that and is proposing it.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do we have any other comments by the commissioners? If not, then I will close public hearing for this item and I will entertain a motion. Yes, Albert.
Mr. Sanchez, did we get the applicant on the record about the trees?
We will check. Jeremy, would you be amenable to having the variation in terms of the trees, having maybe possibly bigger sizes the 36 block, and not just the 24, kind of interspersed throughout. That way, it's not just smaller, younger trees, but some that are already developed that way. It'll give a better aspect.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think I think I heard a couple of comments in there and some from staff describing areas where, they were correctly stated, that they do have variation in size, especially on the very high trafficked areas or public views, especially I think the street frontages along the home frontages that I think they had planned primarily 24 inches, Commissioner Ling pointed out. I think that applicant's preference is the 24-inch, largely because of the sizing, and it gives a little bit more flexibility for the homeowners to plant other things in the front, and sometimes they're often swapped out. So as long as they're within the plant palette that's required by the specific plan, I think the HOA would allow that. So I think rather than going through the expense of changing those out, if the homeowner chooses a little bit of different placement on them, I think if that'd be either an idea would be to have a condition modified to allow staff to work with the applicant as they're completing their plans and having the review completed, that there could be a little bit more variation in the sizing or types of trees within the approved plant palette. I think that would certainly be amenable.
Okay.
And if it's could be interspersed in different areas, that would be ideal, so that could work with staff to find. Sometimes there are conflicts, or there's the homeowners sometimes just desire to make some changes to the front yard area to what they may want, and it means throwing out a tree that is pretty costly once you get up to that many 36 inch. So like if it's amenable to the rest of the commission, to allow the applicant to work with staff to address the comment.
Perfect.
If I may, commissioners, and if I may, Commissioner Liang may, as a suggestion, maybe with the approval or the nod of your fellow commissioners, maybe if you can help us in that process, maybe where we can sit down with you and the landscaping plans and make sure that what ultimately gets approved kind of meets the intent of what you're talking about. If that's something I can throw out there for discussion or thought.
Oh yeah, that would be great. I know Elizabeth mentioned those variations, and Mr. Kraut just mentioned that as well. But again, my point was that in the middle packet, I didn't see any of that capturing the sizes as stated here in tonight. And so I just want to make sure that we have a conditions of approval that would allow staff or myself to participate in that, to ensure that we would capture that. Here again, I think it's a highly good project. It just needs to be enhanced and with the landscaping that should be adequately installed. So yes, I'm not opposed to that.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of the block wall, I think when you look at some of the tract homes that have already been built, I beg to differ. I understand, but I think when you're investing in terms of the high quality, in terms of the building elevations, I would recommend 2 split face so that it matches some of these KB homes, and some of these, again, NASDAQ listed company that have been that have built in the past up further up on Palm Avenue and higher up in the and towards the highest elevations, the Vertimont area. And so I would suggest, I know what's stated in the specific plan, again, bringing such a quality development, I would suggest that the wall be upgraded to match the existing homes that have already been built with 2 split face block wall. Thank you.
All right. I think so. I think Mr. Kraut is amenable to maybe the variety to having that discussion with staff. And so we do have an approval for that. I think according for maybe the wall and everything, as Mr. Kraut mentioned, all public space will have a split face wall. But for, again, it's going to be a cost thing. Preferably, we would want split face throughout. However, it seems that they have it already set in their guidelines. I don't know if they'll be amenable to the split face, but I think the precision wall is more than enough, at least for this project.
Well, I think, again, citing those homes up there, I mean, I think if you drive up along Palm Avenue, the first tract homes that you're going to see have been built by KB Homes. And I think I think that's again, the investment.
It's a standard. Yeah, they set a high bar.
There is a standard up here, up in the Vermont, and I think anything less than that would seems to detract or take away some of these redeeming qualities and features. I myself, with the block wall in the backyard, have the split face, and and I think it's nice to go out in your backyard, even though it's your private space. I think those features last lifetime in terms of the project development, and so I would like to throw that out in terms of my commissioners that when you drive up on Palm Avenue, you have nothing less than high quality development, and then all these other tract homes, notwithstanding some of these older homes built back in the 80s, but when fast forward in terms of the KB Homes, I can't think of some of the NASDAQ listed companies now, but KB Homes seems to sort of popped out in my mind. But when you drive up here, you're not going to see any precision block wall. They've always been split face on both sides to maintain that high quality investment. And I'm not sure anywhere else in the city of San Bernardino has sort of this maintained this high quality standard in terms of some of the housing tracts with all the, you can look at your the approval, the submittal packet, the elevations. I think it would goes nicely with all the features that's being proposed. And, additionally, with all the variations, 6 variations, I think if you time that by 3, you're going to have a lot of combinations and variations. So I think it just seems like it's deserving to not have, this $1 million homes and then you've got a 5 cents block wall construction. So I would ask that the block wall be upgraded with precision on both sides. Split face with both sides. Thank you.
So we have approval for the variation discussion with the trees. Mr. Kraut, once again, anything or meaning the condition on the split face?
I guess I just want to make sure I understand it. I believe I'm hearing it right, that what Commissioner Lang is talking about is anything facing, he mentioned Palm and Magnolia and some of the main streets around there, and any of those areas facing those streets, and even the ones that are interior that are labeled like B Street, L Street, all the lettered streets, all of those have split face facing those streets. So I think I'm hearing that correctly, and that is what's proposed on all these plans. It's all labeled as the W-01A, which has the split face. It's only like if you walk out your back door and nobody else but the private homeowner looks at their interior walls, those walls are the precision. And so it again would, all the areas that Commissioner Lang brought up are addressed. They do have this split face and the higher quality walls. So I think it matches what we're hearing from or what I'm hearing is found in some of those other those other communities. It's just, again, when the private homeowner walks out the back door and looks at his wall, which they may put landscaping in front, they may put some type of other decorative fencing, which is pretty common now. up against that, that will be the precision block. So I guess I think we're addressing that comment, and it again is above and beyond what the specific plan requires by having the split face even on those lettered streets. But they have done that. They've enhanced those block walls in those areas as well. But it sounds like we're on the same page, but maybe I'm hearing it wrong.
Right. I think Commissioner Liang wants split wall for the private as well. Even for not just the public. I'm going to actually going to close public hearing for this item, and I'm going to move for a motion on this item. Do I have a motion?
I think you're muted, Aaron. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to make the motion to approve the project with amendments to the trees, adding verbiage that would allow staff and myself to look at the landscape plan to ensure that we got the correct variations in terms of the 36-inch box. That's one. Two, that some of these, the backyards are also with split face. That's my recommendation.
I'll second that.
Albert, yes.
So since the motion is calling for the split face and the private wall in the backyard too, we should ask if the applicant will agree to that before we take the vote.
Thank you for the request. I guess that cost is pretty substantial as far as the change. I think they would prefer to not do that, and definitely would look to have the public facing be the only areas where the requirement be applied. I think that's in keeping with kind of what the specific plan had. Well, it's even above and beyond what the specific plan required. So I think the respectfully request that the private areas be retained as proposed, and consistent with it being consistent with the specific plan. So I appreciate the consideration, and I think that the idea of having the public facing areas be really enhanced is important and recognized in there.
All right. Commissioner Liang, would you be amenable to just having the tree variation?
No, that's my recommendation, that with the split face, I think, again, if you drive out here, you're going to see the same thing all over, and I'm not sure why this would be permitted. Granted, with this in the specific plan, and I'm not certain how that was reviewed, in terms of determining its consistency with all the Trax homes above this site. So that's my recommendation, that it matches all of the existing homes and all the existing Trax that have been previously approved by the Planning Commission before us tonight. So
Yes, Commissioner Lopez.
Albert, may I ask? So, if the applicant does not accept the motion, we'll say, or the recommendation for the conditions, does not accept that, the commissioners are still, they still have the ability to vote on the motion. And what, may I ask, what happens from that point?
So the motion before us, that would include the split face wall for even the private backyard. If it passes, the applicant has said they wouldn't agree. The applicant needs to agree for the product to be approved. So if the motion passes and the applicant hasn't changed their position, then really the project is dead. There can be another motion proposed at the same time as Commissioner Liang's motion to go forward just with the trees, but not with the requirement for the split face block wall for the backyard. And if that passes, then the project goes forward. Oliver, you're muted.
So if the commission is inclined to vote with the condition as is, it passes. Does the applicant have the opportunity to appeal that to the council?
Yes, because it'll mean that the applicant has not agreed to all the conditions of approval, which is a prerequisite for the project to go forward. So then they can appeal.
Okay, so the commission can't take an action with the condition of the double split face, we'll say. Subject, so it's subject to that condition, and if the applicant does not want to accept that, either the project just fails or they could appeal it to the council. So,
right. And what also can be done is we take the vote on the motion before us. And if it passes, there can be a motion to reconsider be introduced for a motion, again, without the requirement for the split face in the backyard wall. And if that passes, then that'll be the controlling vote. And the procedure for that is first we'd have to vote on whether we want to have a second motion. That has to pass. Then we do the vote again, only with the tree variation.
So we can entertain a vote at this time because we have a first and a second.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
And Chairperson, if I could just, I was pulling up some street that the benefit of these Zoom meetings is I can have a handy dandy computer up to do street views right at my disposal. And I was just doing some of the street views on Red Sky, and you could see a number of mixed wall types, including actually precision block on the streets fronting, on the walls fronting the streets. So again, when you look at Red Sky right across from this project, there's actually just standard precision block compared with what's proposed in this case for the precision, or I mean the split face block. So I guess I'd say that this may be even a step above some of those areas where they don't have a uniform or consistent look. Some of them do have split face, some of them don't. But again, across the board in the proposed design, it does have split face. So I'm just looking at it again, some street views on Red Sky right across the way.
Yes, understandable. I think I've mentioned that in my discussion that notwithstanding some of the projects that have been approved in the 80s or earlier or mid 80s, but I think if you look at the current projects in the 90s and 2000 forward, you're going to see all split face requirements. But I appreciate noting the variations. But again, as I mentioned, the NASDAQ company listed companies by KB Homes and some of the tract homes that have been built back from 2000, dating back from 2002, current now have always been split face. Thank you.
All right. So just to clarify, as you were mentioning, Oliver and Albert, that we do have a motion, we do have a second for both the variation of the trees with the split face. So if that does not pass or it does pass, how do we go about doing a second vote that would be for just the variation in the trees?
Okay, here's the easy one first. The easy one is if the motion loses, there's not a majority on that motion, then somebody else can make a new motion just with the tree variation, and then you take the vote. Now, if the current motion passes, then someone can bring a motion to reconsider. That motion to reconsider the vote that was just taken has to pass by a majority vote. If it does pass by a majority vote, then a new motion to approve the project only with the tree variation has to be introduced, and then that motion is seconded and voted on. And I don't think Commissioner Liang will want to do this, but it's possible that Commissioner Liang can also withdraw his motion, and then somebody make a new motion to pass the project just with the tree variation.
So maybe now with the motion, maybe would it be appropriate to take a vote and see what happens?
So, yeah, and I think I've heard the second motion by Commissioner Lopez on this.
Yeah, so we can proceed to a vote.
Okay. Stephanie, if we could have a vote roll call.
Of course. Commissioner Guerrero.
Oh, sorry about that. That's going to be yes.
Okay. Commissioner Lopez.
Yes.
Chair Sanchez.
Yes.
Commissioner Liang.
Yes.
Commissioner Wolbert.
Yes.
And Commissioner Chang.
Yes.
It's a unanimous vote.
So, Mr. Kraut, do you want to reconsider your position about agreeing to the private wall? Because if you don't change the position, the project will not be able to go forward. You can appeal to the city council, but it won't be able to go forward right now.
I think the applicant will want to move forward with this, and if they find any issues, they'll come to talk to staff and figure out the right way to go. But I appreciate the consideration. It's a long deliberation and very thoughtful discussion. So appreciate all the commissioners' points and appreciate the approval. So yeah, they'll want to move forward. They're quickly moving forward to permits, and they don't want to hold that up. That's the primary issue that they're working through.
So to be clear, the applicant will build split face block walls on that private backyard wall. Is that correct?
Right, exactly.
Okay, then the project can go forward. The applicant has agreed, it's on the record, and we can move on.
Thank you, Mr. Kraut, and thank you, commissioners. I think you'll be very pleased with the outcome of the track homes.
All right. Moving on to our last item number 7. I know it's going to be continued. However, we do have public comment on it. So could we hear a staff report, or will that just be for its continuance?
We will defer the staff report for the next meeting. If we will, I believe Stephanie, am I correct? Do we have some public comments that were submitted?
Not to me, we did not. So I have no public comments for this item.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
With that, our recommendation that this item be continued to the September 8th meeting, just for clarification a little bit. We currently have a moratorium for all social service related uses for the city. That covers a lot of areas, beyond what was expected. What we were faced with here, and some of the things that have surfaced as a result of this pandemic that we're going through, is there's some new regulations and things as it relates to housing, if you will, and how those may be labeled, whether it's appropriate or appropriate for such type uses to be labeled as a social service. So that is being evaluated by our legal representation. And so we didn't have time to complete that analysis and have that discussion prior to the meeting or prior to the agenda being released. So therefore, rather than rush it, we're requesting that be continued to the 8th, so that we have time to button everything up and present it to the Planning Commission. And that's kind of a brief little update.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Oliver. So I'll open public comments for this, as it'll be continued. Is there any questions by the commissioners? If not, I will close public comment for this, and I will entertain a motion to continue this item for the 8th.
I make a motion that we continue this item for the next meeting, September 8th.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We've got a second. Stephanie, if we could have a vote roll call.
Commissioner Guerrero,
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez,
Aye.
Chair Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Liang,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilbert,
Yes.
and Commissioner Chang.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you, commissioners.
Do we have any reports or announcements?
I have a couple, if I may. Under the director's report, one, I appreciate the Planning Commission's openness to having a second meeting in September. As I just wanted to point out that as we sit today, we have 13 items that are ready to be presented to the Planning Commission. I thought that we may not want to spend the 4 or 6 hours together in one evening, so I thought it might be best to split the items. 2 of those items, again, one will be the ordinance for the social services, and the other item that we'll be bringing is an ordinance revisiting our world famous and popular ADUs. There's some new regulations that came up at the state level that I know that we had presented that before, and the commission had approved and forwarded to the council. There's been some changes, so we wanted to capture those rather than going back and forth. So, so like I said, I appreciate that accommodation to have that second meeting in September. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. All right. Does anyone else have any comments for this upcoming month or anything happening?
I wanted to ask if we could get an updated list of what's in the pipeline. I know we had one, it's probably been about a year since the last time we had one. And of course, with COVID and everything like that, things change. So wanted to ask if we could get something like that.
Are you referring to what we used to call the major projects list?
Yes.
It was like a table, and it said where it was in the process. We have been examining that. Michael Huntley and I, we've been discussing that task specifically, and we have some thoughts as to how we want to restructure that. If you recall, there was some items that I don't think anyone even remembered when they were approved or those kinds of things, but we have. I think we want to do something that's a little bit more current. We've had some thoughts with the technology that we have. As an example, one of the things that we'd like to do, and we've been contemplating, is a mechanism where we can refer you to a link. So if you're looking at the table and it says a project CUP, 2020, we'll say, it'll tell you where it is and what have you, and then we're looking at how we can refer you to a link, so you can click on our website. Cities update, we're updating our website in the meantime, and maybe this way it'll send you somewhere where you could look at a site plan, some elevations, and that kind of thing. So something that's a little bit more informative than just some words on a table, and some, so it's a little more interactive, I'll say. And so yeah, we'll I'm not sure of the timing, sooner than later, kind of a thing, but it is something that we've been talking, Michael and I, in terms of how we want to keep the commissioners informed, especially with some of the recent projects that you've been approving.
Okay. And then I know last meeting we were kind of tight on the schedule for Panda Express. I think they were going to get the approval on that Friday. Did they end up getting it, or?
I don't recall the approval. For what specifically?
It was Panda right next to the In-N-Out. It was them going through, I think, escrow or going through the process of actually getting the property.
Well, they have submitted for plan check, so it is moving forward.
Oh, okay.
Wonderful. Does any other commissioner have any other comments? I just have 2 quick comments. I want to thank everybody for their expertise. Commissioner Chang, with the balls and everything for the daycare center and everything for the protection of the students. You came with all the numbers. So thank you for being able to provide that for everyone. Commissioner Wolbert, your expertise on needing those walls and having the experience. Commissioner Liang, you came and you played hardball with them, saying, no, I want a split face. I want a nicer wall. And I think we agreed with that. Everyone is actually happy and wanting everything to look better. You know, it'll just grow from there and everything. So if we keep everything consistent, everyone else has to do it. And thank you for sticking out for us and pushing for that.
No, I say thank you for your support. I think again, in absence of you know, some of these isolated incidences where certain tracks may have been approved by precision block wall, but I think in the end, when this is developed, I think it's going to raise the bar for the city, you know, overall, and I think you'll be pleased with the split face on both sides.
Yes, and then I mean, Commissioner Lopez and Guerrero, they're supporting and they're asking the questions about security and making sure our neighbors, you know, alongside these projects are well taken care of. So just thank you to everybody. Thank you, Albert, Oliver, Elizabeth, I think she already left, but, and Stephanie who makes this and runs this like a well-oiled machine. So just thank you guys for, you know, sticking out for the city and everything, trying to make sure everyone has a high bar. That way we don't fall and we keep producing these better products.
And we appreciate those comments and the direction from the planning commissioners, because now when we have new projects coming in, you could rest assured when we have another daycare or preschool coming in here that we'll be mindful of what they have for block wall or fencing or that kind of thing. I will also say that on one of our 2 meetings in September, we do have an application in for one of our developers, GFR. They're going to they've submitted an application for the home similar to what we had for Rancho Palma. I think it's their 84 lot subdivision up there. So you can rest assured when I look at the plans tomorrow, I'll be looking for that split face on both sides of the walls, you know, to hit that up. And so when we know what the commissioners are looking for, it makes it easy for us to champion that for you on the other side. So we appreciate those insights.
Thank you, Oliver, for fighting our you know, before it comes to us and everything, that we don't have to you know, try to pull it out of their hands, be like, no, you can give this to us. And then I think my last comment is, I know there's not very many you know, officers on the ground in terms of permits and certain things, but the GO request, just improving our neighborhoods, you know, I know it sounds a little bit like tattling. However, a little tattling is good if we're able to improve our neighborhood. Just, you know, one bad apple can kind of start ruining the rest. So if we can really attack it while it's, you know, smaller and kind of concentrated, I think we can improve a lot of our neighborhoods. So just advocating for, you know, just download the app and then we'll be able to improve quite a bit. So thank you. And I think that's it in terms of reports and announcements. I think we can adjourn this meeting for the, I don't have the date, September 8th meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make
a
motion
to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have that second?
Second.
Perfect. We have a motion. We have a second. I think we can do a visual or a hand vote.
All in favor?
Yes. All right. So till September 6th or 8th, I'm already changing the dates. We'll see you then. Have a good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everyone.